heart of the servant is the heart of Jesus. It's the heart of the Father, it's the heart of the Holy Spirit, and it's the heart of the everyday believer. You see, Jesus highlights two very significant things in this passage, one of a neighbor and the other of compassion. I remember being young and in high school going to a youth camp like many of you probably have. I had these moments where I didn't understand what was going on. I was new to church. I was new to this whole thing called ministry. And I remember sitting there in worship nights and people crying, people laughing, people worshiping, people doing all these different things. And everyone was kind of minding their own business and no one helping one another. And I remember one night where the message of the gospel struck to my heart. I started to think, if this is real, if this is true, I could never amount to these things. I've hurt people, I've said things that I didn't mean, and I've done a lot of things that I know the Bible told me that I shouldn't. And the reality is I could never meet the standard that Jesus says we ought to meet. And so it started to bring up so many emotions in my own life, so many emotions in who I was, so many emotions in the things that I was doing, that I just got up from the chapel and I ran outside. I was sitting in the dirt and in tears. And I don't know exactly how much time passed by, but it felt like hours. It felt like so much time. And in those moments, people would walk by. They would look and they would continue to walk by. They would look and walk by again. But then I remember one of my leaders from the church coming, walking over and sitting down right beside me. He didn't say anything, but he just sat there. I began to wonder, when is he going to ask me a question? When is he going to ask if I'm okay? When is he going to say something to me? But he didn't. All that happened was I began yelling at him. I began to say, what's going on inside of these services? People are crying and no one does anything. People are laughing when people are crying next to them. People are raising their hands. What are they raising their hands to? I can never do any of these things that we're called to do. What's the point of doing this if we can never meet that standard? And he just began to pray for me. And if I'm being honest, I don't remember anything that he said. I don't remember the teaching of that night. But what I do remember is someone coming and sitting next to me. What I do remember is someone recognizing what it meant to be the neighbor. See, our neighbor isn't always someone we choose, but often someone God has put in front of us. You can almost bet the Samaritan didn't think that he was going to wake up and find someone half dead, beaten, and have to help them. No, he was probably running through his daily life doing things that he would normally do. And in no way, shape, or form should he have helped him. In fact, many people considered these two to be enemies of each other. But he was so drawn to this definition of neighbor, realizing that it could be literally anyone. And what drew his heart was this heart of compassion. You see, compassion is a quality that one carries, one that loves Jesus. It means to suffer with. It means to sit with that person even when nothing happens, even when you have nothing to give, even when you're just sitting there for the sake of sitting and unsure of what's going to come from it. You see, the heart of compassion is realizing that everyone carries brokenness. That could be people in your school, it could be people in your families, it could be people that you're sitting with right now. But the heart of compassion says, I'll sit with you. Even if it's all I got, even if it's all I had to give, it's me saying yes to whatever you need. You see, the reality of being a servant is that you see a need and you meet that need. And see, the heart of compassion and the heart of realizing who a neighbor truly is could be anyone. So I'm wondering what comes to mind when you think of that reality. But if you were to go away with one thing today, know that the heart of a servant sees the need and meets the need. It's one who recognizes its neighbors and one who ultimately carries a heart of compassion.